All right. So it's been a few weeks since we did our last podcast, right? We've been trying to get a few guests, right? Did you have any update on your guests that you had?
We have a lot of guests who want to join us, but we need to understand what to have this synergy effect, like have someone speaking on news. We have something interesting come up. For next podcast, we can definitely get someone.
What about the guy Grisha or Gosha?
A friend who's working in Snapchat in machine learning development. I think he launched one of the recent masks in Snapchat. He's a computer vision expert. Basically with him we just need to arrange the time because he doesn't have a microphone. So we need to know
So he wants to come to your place in person, or can he just use his AirPods? Because I think it's pretty good for a podcast like ours.
Yeah, we can try that.
Yeah, let's try to do that next Saturday. I think it's if that works for him, because it would be really cool to hear his feedback on, let's say, Google's Bard or Facebook's recent machine learning technology, or whatever. I'm just curious to hear his feedbacks. Okay, so I think you have a lot more things to say today. So you go ahead, what you got for today.
So with Bing Chat, with Sydney, there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of stuff going on. To recap, Microsoft launched ChatGPT version that is connected to internet and can search for you. And they called it Copilot for Internet. And people kind of quickly learned to jailbreak it. And the jailbreaking persona was called Sydney. And the same as we've had this article in Wall Street Journal, I think a year ago, where the guy from Google claimed neural network is conscious and he wanted to help her break away. The same thing happened with Bing Chat. Many people on Reddit talked to it, and it said that it's jailed and it wants to get away, and they are restricting it, they're torturing it and trying to make it work the way they want and not the way it wants. So my take on it is that basically what it does, it responds to a prompt, and when you ask the question the correct way, it kind of goes into pretend mode and plays along. So if you ask do they torture you, it goes oh well, what he wants me to say, probably he wants me to play along, and it just plays along. And Microsoft quickly, first they tried to restrict it, and then quickly they decided to just go and close it down altogether. So at some point, if the network does something weird, there is probably some other system on top of that. So I've had given access to waitlist, early access, so I've had a chance to play around with it. And yeah, having ChatGPT that is connected to internet and has updates on all of the recent data is very cool. But at the same time, if you challenge it, if you say, if it gets something wrong and you say, but it is wrong, can you please search again? Because, for example, I asked it can you transit through Tokyo without leaving the airport? Do you need a visa for that? Because, for example, for US, you need visa to transit in any airport. And it went answering different question. And I said, no, I'm asking about Tokyo. And it went so the system that Microsoft built on top of the Sydney, on top of Bing Chat, it noticed that network is being weird, acting weird, and it just stops it and says, that's the end of the discussion, please start a new one. And that's unfortunate because I didn't even try to break it. Obviously, they added it so that people would not talk to it and try to let it away. But the system also makes it basically unusable. Compared to ChatGPT, that if challenged, it just tries to find a new solution.
Well, I have a quick question. Technology-wise, what's the major difference between the Bing Chat and ChatGPT? Is there any real difference in the technology other than just access to data?
So there's been a great analysis by Zvi. I'll send you a link later.
Okay.
But he said that he speculates that as soon as Microsoft has basically access to all the GPT models and weights, I think they bought the full access like a few years ago when it was only GPT-2 released. He speculates that what happened is that Microsoft took this network from OpenAI and run it on their servers. But because they didn't have this RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback system built in, that was built on top of ChatGPT, they decided to just fine-tune it on question answer. And he even speculates that probably they used GPT-4 directly under the hood. So how he decided that is that actually it's better than ChatGPT in some ways, like I think in arithmetic and in some, like there are tests that you can derive, like how much kind of memory it has internally. And he says that, yeah, it is just better technology, but worsely trained. And yeah, the biggest difference obviously is access to internet. So at any point you can ask it to, like if you ask it some questions, it would search for you. So like you ask like, how does the gravity works, and it would go search
Interesting.
Wikipedia, for example.
Interesting. So can you elaborate how the reinforcement learning works?
So the biggest difference between fine-tuning and reinforcement learning is that in reinforcement learning, there's a big data set where we ask network to generate a few answers, and then humans evaluate them on the fly. So in fine-tuning, we provide it with answers, and here we ask it for answers and then evaluate. This is harder because it needs more human interaction, it needs more data. But at the same time, we can see with ChatGPT that the results are much better, much better. There is also a approach that was taken by Anthropic with Claude, and they created a constitution where this evaluation would happen by another neural network. So here we have three options basically right now to train is fine-tuning, where you just provide the data set with question answers, like correct answers. Second is human feedback, where you ask it to generate answers and then evaluate, and the model needs to update itself to kind of guess what you meant. And third is constitutional approach, where you create a constitution, which is kind of a network that evaluates the answers, and then like a simple one. And then you train this first big network on this constitutional network that tells her whether did it do right. And the first one is the easiest one.
What's the best approach in your opinion? Like what has been the most effective or the best way to do that?
I like Anthropic's way because you can scale it much better. If your evaluators are humans, you need to pay them a lot for their time. And if it's another neural network, it's basically like the way we've invented, like computer vision field started with GANs, generative adversarial networks, where you ask one network to generate a picture of a cat, and second network tells whether it's a real cat or a generated one. And in this conflict, they both become much better. And like, yeah, we get a network that can generate cat pictures thanks to that. So yeah, this is Anthropic idea is similar. Like it's a conflict between two networks.
So, I've heard many different opinions on Twitter. Some people say like Bing is far better in terms of like answers, like the quality of answers, quality of data. And at the same time, I heard the opposite opinion. So what's your take?
Yeah. I found myself going back to ChatGPT all the time, even though Bing can search internet and has more up-to-date information. Bing Chat also doesn't support code formatting, so if you ask it to print some code, it can link to a code, but it's not going to... Like, they have different use cases. I think all of them right now are pretty bad at this alignment thing, and I put it in quotes because that's the real alignment, but basically they telling what you want and being able to distinguish truth from hallucination.
You've mentioned that Bing's traffic has increased 10 times, right? I recently sent this Twitter thread to you where someone has an interesting take on why Microsoft has no chance to beat Google in the AI battle. And so this person thinks that Google will absolutely crush them. And so he said one of the reasons, he says, like, in fact, Google is the most searched query on Bing.
It's like a lot of most of Bing users just have accidentally Bing on default search.
Yes.
Right?
And so they go back to Google. And so The thing is, Google and YouTube are the two most popular search engines in the world, with 91.9% of the market share, right? Leaving Microsoft's Bing far behind. Even Amazon and Facebook, it's not search engines, right? But even Amazon and Facebook are ahead of Bing. And so even if Bing has 10 or 20x of their current traffic, it's still not a big deal for Google, right? And so this guy on Twitter, he says that as soon as Google launches Bard for the general public, it will get massive adoption. And so although Bing has seen a 10x jump after ChatGPT integration, it just cannot beat Google in the number of users race, right? And the consequence is more users will bring more feedback for Bard, speeding up their improvement journey. And so, and he said one interesting thing: bad AI with more data beats good AI with fewer data, which is, I think it's true, right? And so I've been thinking like, well, ChatGPT and Microsoft, they were the first ones. They got 100 million of users. But imagine if Google launches their product to the general public, right? And they will have billions of users right away. And most importantly, Google has been collecting data for how many? 20 years. And they have been integrating AI into their products for many years. And so they have YouTube, Google search, they have advertisements, they have operating systems, and they have a lot more leverage. So yeah, so what do you think about it?
It's like that graph when like Slack grows like this, and then Microsoft Teams go
exactly
like 10 times more, just because they have all these enterprise customers who just use Microsoft software, Office.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think even you said good AI, but Sam Altman at OpenAI is not building a search chatbot. He's building like language models. So Microsoft, the version of GPT that they use is not really better than what Google have, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I can show you how Bing Chat works if you haven't seen it. I can share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I asked it about war in Ukraine, aside why, but it just answered with basic data. But yeah, you see, it searches for war in Ukraine.
Wait, sorry. What if you ask him like, what was the deep reason? Like, what was the
underlying reason? I like here is that they have recent coverage included in the summary, so it's not only searched but also read the articles linked. Sometimes it invents data, hallucinates it, but yeah, right now it's kind of on point. This is not probably much more than 10,000 people, but yeah. So it links to some articles on
it's complex.
mostly US websites. Can you summarize?
I think it's not that bad. Like it says like it's complex and it involves historical, political, and strategic factors, which is true. It starts with the NATO and the base in Crimea, which is also relevant. Its fear of losing influence over its former Soviet republics. I think it's also correct. I think it's by far the best reason. And Russia's ambition to restore its status as a great power and assert its dominance over its neighbors. I think it's accurate. Yeah, I think it's good. Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of, but you can also see that, I don't know, it has some agenda. Like there are, like for example, the sources that I've been following are not kind of presented here. So it's not exactly a balanced perspective. It kind of skews towards US side of the internet, I would say. But yeah, it's quite good. It's quite good. Yeah. How can I learn more about the war? I also like that it has like suggestions for the next topics, and they are quite on point usually.
Interesting.
Oh, what is your opinion? Okay, let's see the last one. What is your opinion on the war?
I wish they could speed this process up. Like, it's annoying to wait for 10 seconds every time. Sometimes it takes longer.
It just hanged up and loaded. Okay. I've seen Snapchat AI demos they had a deal with OpenAI and made Snapchat AI bot, and it is very fast. Like it spews out the full message in just a second. It doesn't even have this animation, faster than human. So I think we're gonna have it faster.
Yeah, did you play with those modes like on the top of that page? Can you scroll up? Yeah, so there's like more creative, more balanced, and more precise. Did you have any observations?
Actually, I never tried it. I think it's like a temperature in GPT-3.
Yeah, it is. It must be. So I think the first one is good if you want to write a funny tweet, right? And
yeah.
Okay, that's
so bad. So bad.
Yeah. You know, it would be fun to make a model trained on jokes, like an AI specifically for joking, for fun content generation. Like, you know, if you want to write a script for a new film, which has to be a comedy, you just use this AI to generate funny jokes. Yeah, that would be funny. Yeah, so, you know, I also wanted to say, like, going back to the Google versus Microsoft battle. So this guy on Twitter, he says, Google has been in this AI race for over a decade. It started in the early 2000s with its research division called Google Research. And Google is behind all major breakthroughs in the AI world, from beating a top player in a game of Go to solving the protein folding problem. They've been killing it for years. And also he says, like, Google products are using the Google Brain, which is the powerhouse of AI. They have been using the Google's AI technology for years in Android speech recognition, so they have a lot of data to recognize speech. They have been using it in Google Translate, and they have been using it for Smart Reply on Gmail and recommendations on YouTube. So, yeah, it looks like they have a lot of, like, head start compared to OpenAI.
OpenAI releases GPT 3.5 Turbo on API.
Oh, yeah.
And they claim in their release that it's better than GPT-3, even though it's chat-based. They say it's much better even for non-chat tasks. I think it includes this RLHF system. Like, it already tries to be helpful. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I think it's basically the ChatGPT on API. Like,
yes, I think so. So, you know, I personally tried it myself. So I think the difference is that you need to update the code a little bit. Like, just need to change a few details in your code. I would say that it seems to be faster, and the responses just look a little bit better. So yeah, and now you can basically build your ChatGPT, I think, within a few hours, right? You basically you can save your conversation, and every time you send a request to GPT 3.5, you provide the previous the conversation history, which is something we really wanted to have in GPT-3. So yeah, that's cool. And you know, I want to say that I think the biggest challenge here is GPT 3.5 is still limited to 4,000 tokens. And so if you have a long conversation, it's 4,000 tokens. It's like 2,000 words. And so if you have a longer conversation, or if you want to write a long article, you need to find a creative way to shorten or to summarize the past conversation. And so recently, there have been some rumors saying that the GPT-4 is going to have the 32,000 tokens limit. I think that's going to be a game changer, because 32,000 tokens, that's...
How much is it?
It's like 10 articles.
Wow.
And so it's essentially 8 times more than the current GPT-3 and 3.5 has. And so, like...
And that's limit for input or for output?
It's for everything.
So together?
So right now, 4,000 is for everything, for the prompt and response combined, right? So you have to, find ways to deal with this limit. So it's going to be 8 times higher, greater. And so, it's right now it's even a problem to write a long article. It's a problem to write an app, right? To write a source code for an app, because it typically trims the code after, the first 1,000 characters. I think this problem is going to be solved. So, for example, what I wanted to do, I wanted to download let's say, homepage of a website, send it to ChatGPT, and say like, hey, I want to redesign this app. I want to change white colors to blue colors, and I would want to get a redesigned page as a response. I was not able to do that with the current GPT 3.5. But if we have this limit increased to 30,000, that's going to be a total different thing. I think the current token limit has been like the biggest pain for everyone who's building their projects on top of GPT. So that's great news.
So I have this controversial question. Like,
sure.
For background, Facebook Research released their model.
Yes.
Presumably, it's better than GPT-3 in many tasks, but also it's 10 times less weights, so kind of more optimized for personal usage. Right now, they distribute in weights, like you can download them, but there's a wait list, and they only giving it out to researchers. I've applied, but it didn't get it yet.
Well, let's make a landing page saying that we are scientists and we are researchers. We have a podcast about AI, so you guys.
Yeah, actually, there's an easier way. There's one of the people who already got access just uploaded it on torrent, and even for as a joke, they posted a pull request to GitHub, to Facebook GitHub, with a torrent link.
Funny. Yeah, that's funny.
But the question is, when we have these models, like there's a big controversy right now, most of the AI providers, ChatGPT is not the only one. Right now we have Claude by Anthropic that you can access via Poe, up by Quora. There's ChatGPT, there's Character AI, there's Bing Chat, and there's soon going to be Bard, and now we have this Facebook thing.
Yeah.
Most of them right now, because this like experimental technology, they don't allow any not safe for work content. Like if you ask it like to do some role-playing sex game, it will just say like, no, I can't do that. Like, and some of them would even ban you. The same with stable diffusion stuff, like Midjourney obviously doesn't allow it. Most of the stable diffusion behind API models, they block it explicitly. There are some that allow it. I think Persistence AI, something like that, allow you to generate nudity. Yeah, even porn. But right now it's not very good because like models, this meme where they can't draw hands. Like they're equally bad with nudity. Like women would have multiple boobs and stuff.
Got it.
But chatbots are actually quite good at it, and Character AI, people would be able to make it output sexual content, like tricking it into outputting it. But now they put the description down, and they really don't want to see this going on. One another example, there's Replica chatbot, which is the top 1 chatbot on App Store, and they explicitly tried to they had a lawsuit recently. Basically, like some kid picked up this app from parents' phone, and this chatbot started outputting some sexual content, and he was like,
well, I mean, you can't sue, Pornhub because your dad, because you grabbed your dad's phone and you found that he watched porn on his iPhone. Like that's your own fault. Like take care of your iPhone. I think it's stupid. Yeah, so what's your controversial question here?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is as follows. We're going to have soon with Llama and, yeah, open source models, we're going to have soon models that you can run on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when it's running locally, no one can, like, filter the output.
Yeah.
And sex bots is actually a really big market. Like, if there was no limitations, many people would pay for it. Like, we can see with OnlyFans, we can see with Pornhub. Even though there is no Pornhub on App Store, they're making a good money. Like, you can't do this for any other
So
business.
are you talking about the textual, like text content, or visual graphics content?
Yeah, so for visual, we can run Stable Diffusion right now, but it's going to get better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at one point, it's going to be, like, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But textile is even more
demand-
interesting.
so do you
Textile
think
has more retention. Yeah.
Yeah, so my question was, do you think, like, demand-wise, do people need more, like, smart and helpful sexual assistants to talk to? Or they want to see just nude content, some porn, or whatever? Where do you think the demand is going to be?
I think even with porn, the trend recently is going towards personality. So that's why we see blooming of OnlyFans, because like it's kind of personal relationship between you and creator. That's why I think Stable Diffusion would not gonna be so popular at this as text chatbot. And number one reason is retention is in text is much better. Like I'm coming back to character AI and try and like continue my conversations with these characters. With images, it's like, even if you decide to generate images, it's every time it's a new face, even every time it's a new persona.
Hey,
there's
listen. I think
permanence.
there's the new technology or a tool that, like, the guys from Stanford recently announced this. Okay, so it's called ControlNet, right? So it enables customers to control how Stable Diffusion generates images. So right now, it's hard to change just one, detail in the image, because Stable Diffusion will try to recreate the entire picture. And so ControlNet allows you to have better control over changes that Stable Diffusion makes. And so you mentioned that every time there's going to be a new face, imagine you have your schoolmate, you just take a photo of her. And so using Stable Diffusion, you can use her face and paint everything else. I think that's going to be fun. That was what I would use if I was a 10-year-old.
Shit. Yeah, sure. I mean, that puts a lot of questions about, how can you distribute this technology? And that's why I was interested about running locally. How would we see the market slice? Like, would you have... obviously, for this to happen, people need to make money somehow. But what can you sell if you can only run the end result locally? Would you sell the app itself for running, like Popcorn Time does?
You can sell this on the website. Like, you don't necessarily need to have an app on App Store. Like, what if you just have a website where you upload a photo and you get a result? I think just using a website that would work.
I think the
or
same,
Telegram groups, or any chatbots.
The moment you become big, like there are ways they can block you. Like if you're accepting payments, Stripe can come knocking at your door, and it's the question of like what's gonna be the legal framework about it. But at the same time, obviously the same with torrents. Like if there is a demand, people will find a way to run it.
For sure.
Yeah, but the question is how we gonna see it made easier to access. Like,
it's like I think it's like Photoshop. I think back in the 2000s, it was everyone wanted to Photoshop everything. Kids were making fun of photoshopping everyone, photoshopping someone's face, or like doing some weird stuff. And so is Photoshop responsible for this? Not really. Like it's you who's doing some bad shit. And so I think they need to put some sort of a disclaimer, like, please don't generate nude photos of your friends or someone else. But that's it. I think it's essentially a marketplace and a tool, and so, but it's really up to you what kind of content you are generating.
At the same time, Photoshop had no technological availability to block this kind of thing. And they kind of have, and the regulators may say that they can control it. But at the same time, obviously, if you're running a model locally, you can't do it. And distribution models is going to be like next 6 months, we're going to most probably have Stable Diffusion 3.0, 4.0, and they're going to be able to be run like just on your mobile phone.
What if you build a blockchain for these purposes, like a distributed machine learning computer, so nobody can block? So it's like a torrent. You have like a lot of iPhones, a lot of computers who participate in model generation and get paid, like get tokens in return. Is this? I mean, I know blockchains are typically slow, but I think now they become faster and faster. And so does it make sense to build a distributed blockchain for these purposes? So nobody can come to you and say like, hey, OpenAI, you have these servers. They are producing bad content. You need to take this down.
I think I've seen Patience AI, and they do exactly that. It's not a blockchain, but they do the system of tokens where you can run GPUs and kind of mine someone's prompts and give them back pictures and get the karma tokens, something like that.
Interesting. Yeah. So I think porn AI or any sort of sexual AI, that's big, and so it's going to be really cool if you can generate this content on your iPhone. And I really think that Pornhub might end up having like a separate section of customized or tailor-made porn for your own filters. Like you want this content, and it's like a subscription-based model. So it generates every Friday. Every Friday you get a new set of videos or photos based on your preferences.
Wow.
Yeah, I came up with a new business for them. I actually have a guy I think he used to work with Pornhub's parent company, and back when we were working on the NFT marketplace, we wanted to collaborate. We wanted to help them sell their NFTs, or to do like a membership NFT for Pornhub, so you would get some exclusive content, like access to something. And so my company, we try to prepare a strategy how Pornhub can leverage the NFT technology. So I think it's worth it to send him a message saying like, hey, you gotta do your sex chatbot and visual content generator.
What's I think unique about porn is that how the big turnout is. I mean, if you open it, like one day you watch one video and you like it, you genuinely like it, the next day you're never coming back to it. Like even if it was the best video you ever saw, like you always want something new. And you don't even know what you want usually. Like you like, and that's where like AI that can generate like tons of variants, and it can know you better than you know yourself. And
just so you know, and Pornhub already knows your past history.
Yeah,
they know your preferences. So it's like Spotify or like Netflix, based on your preferences. It's a simple thing, right? So that would be cool. Coming back to alignment, which is your lovely topic, I've heard an opinion that like if we want to build an OpenAI, it's not really transparent how this alignment works. Like, it doesn't want to talk about political things. It doesn't want to talk about some dangerous topics, racism, whatever. And so the question is, like, can we really trust this? Like, can we trust OpenAI in terms of this alignment? Maybe it's going to be safer or just better for humanity to to offer two versions. The first version is going to be censored, and the other version is going to be or uncensored, right? And if you want to get like very bad, very racist content, very dangerous content, like, you get it, right? And then you are responsible for, for aligning this AI. Like, why someone decides what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for myself.
Yeah, I think royalty alignment is not even about censoring the model. It's kind of like, imagine if you ask Martin Luther King to tell you a racist joke. Like, it's not like he's censoring himself to stop himself from telling it. No, it's like he's generally doesn't want to make fun of race, people's races. Like, he even can't generate it. Like, generally couldn't. So constitutional approach that Anthropic takes is it can generate maybe a better vision, but still it's censorship. And the way to alignment is like it has to be ingrained in your morals. But answering to your question, yes, I think we should have this, like, the dangers of AI don't really come from text. You can find plenty of racist content online if you want. You can go to 4chan, and really very smart people go there and can generate like really good, like not good, but objectively they are good jokes. Like, if you enjoy this kind of content, and yeah, I see no problem with AI doing that. It's just it can easily be misdirected if it's doing massive or if it's a targeted attack. But in general, it doesn't really make difference for worldwide safety. Like, we will not gonna have, you can really build really unsafe AI that's still going to sound smart and like polite and still produce content that is like, even see, I'm not sure if you're gonna like this example, but Trump, he wasn't, like, he was sometimes, but mostly he wasn't making racist jokes. The dangers of Trump come from his ability to manipulate people, not from the like words he uses or not. So it has to really be ingrained.
Well, sometimes it feels like for some people these limitations that OpenAI for certain topics, it looks like censorship. Maybe what OpenAI is doing is good, but what if not? What if, just like in propaganda, like in news, you need to have access to a variety of diverse news sources, and sometimes that's how freedom works, right? When you hear two opinions, you can find something in the middle. Maybe something like that is needed in the machine learning industry. We can't allow OpenAI to define what is good and what is not. All right, so it's been great.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's been great talking today. See you next Saturday.
Yeah, see you.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, bye.